Well, good morning if you are in beautiful, if chilly San Francisco, California. Good afternoon if you are in hot New York City. Good evening if you are in temperate Helsinki, Finland, or somewhere in the south of France, maybe in Aix-en-Provence, in Stuttgart, in Berlin, in Copenhagen, and any number of places in Europe. And greetings to people all around the world. Welcome to Fred Plotkin on Fridays on Adagio, the place where classical music happens. As you know, Adagio is a video and audio streaming platform dedicated to supporting artists and to making classical music and opera available to fans all around the world. My guest today, and by the way, today is June 14th of 2024, is an old friend. I don't see her very much, but she is a dear old friend, not in age, but in terms of how long we've been friends. And what I'm going to do, my dear, you're in San Francisco. I'm going to say your first name only, and you will pronounce your Finnish last name, okay? This is
We'll do
Olga.
that.
This is
Hey,
Olga. Olga, how do you say your last name?
my last name is Heikkilä. Heikkilä.
Heikkilä. Now, this leads to my first question. You're in San Francisco because the San Francisco Opera is doing, I believe, the American premiere of what is considered a modern masterpiece by the late Finnish composer Kaija Saariaho. The opera is called Innocence, and it's an opera you have been connected with for quite a while in its different productions in Europe. And in addition to covering two roles here, I believe, you are also the Finnish language coach for the American singers in the cast. And so therefore, Finnish is a beautiful language and it's very singable, but I speak a lot of languages that I cannot, I know words in Finnish, but I cannot even make a sentence. How do you teach Finnish to people who are not Finnish?
Well, Fred, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's such a pleasure. I'm great to contribute this little conversation to Adagio, which I adore, and to join my many colleagues. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for creating our common memory of our time and artists that are active at our time. This is such a precious thing. I'm very privileged to be here. And answering your question about Finnish diction, oh dear, yes. we have indeed 7 vowels and a lot of double consonants and double vowels, which can be very difficult, and especially to pronounce in contemporary music, which is very well structured musically, so the rhythms are very important, and how to fit that text and how to make also the singers to be comfortable and still communicate in that language. So there is my part, and I have been very systematic with my work. I believe that all of us are auditive, so I sent tapes with me reading words in Finnish. And we have also worked on the IPA, so International Phonetic Alphabets. So the visual impact, that you have the right signs to learn the pronunciation, and then of course the kinetic level of it, how you move your tongue, how you use your articulation muscles. And that's where we need sessions one-to-one, and those have been wonderful sessions with 6 American colleagues. We have been really connected on different levels while working on Finnish diction. Yeah.
Well, let's start with the fact that you could teach me to say a sentence in Finnish, but to sing a sentence in Finnish has to be very different in terms of the placement of the tongue, of the shape of the mouth, and so on. And so when you're teaching Finnish to these singers, do you start with the music and the words, or do you only do the words?
Actually, we start with some physical exercise. And if you want to,
lifting.
Exactly. Something that that's something that you do with your lips. If you want to join me, this is my a very nice face yoga as well, lifting things up. So the jaw has to be really relaxed because we are singing, right? We are creating this beautiful legato, and there the jaw has to be relaxed. So when we're pronouncing new words, diction of the language that we're not familiar with, we should not close and be stressed in our jaw. So jaw is very relaxed. And we check the relaxation of the jaw by just giving a little massage to the soft point of our jaw and keep that soft while saying with our upper lip, e, u, e, e, yeah, that's great. So what happens? You keep the jaw relaxed and you activate your upper lip. And why this exercise is crucial for Finnish diction is because we have a lot of diphthongs, a lot of sounds where we are moving from this position to this position very quickly or slowly. And we just need to know that this is the movement and the jaw remains relaxed. Yeah.
So you're reminding me now, a number of years ago, I was working at the Savonlinna Festival, perhaps before I met you. And that is in the early summer. It's a beautiful castle in central Finland on lakes. It's gorgeous. There are water everywhere. The best strawberries I've ever had in the world are from Savonlinna. But I was referred to a woman who gave me what was called a vocal massage.
Yes.
And apparently it was invented in Savonlinna. The Finns are great people in terms of spa and sauna, and they take it very seriously. It's a religion practically. And this was a very serious massage, and not just on my face, but it was designed to relax my throat, my jaw, and she worked on my forehead a lot. She worked on my hands and relaxed things in the hands. And I will say that afterwards, I was very relaxed in my mouth and jaw. And, God bless Finland that they take that seriously.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. And I'm so happy that experience of that because you are working so much with your,
mouth, I know. And I learned how to relax it. So you said there are 7 vowels in Finnish. What are the 7 vowels?
A, E, I, O, U, A, Ö. So
A, Ö.
Yeah, exactly. So you have also in English words like hat or cat. So it is existing, but it's kind of hard to understand how broad it is in the lips, and that you can really use that in diphthongs. Yeah.
And what word in Finnish would contain that vowel, that a?
Oh, definitely the very first word babies are saying in Finnish, and that's not mama, that's äiti.
Äiti. And what is äiti?
Äiti is mother.
A mother, okay.
Yes, a mother in Finnish is äiti. So you just open your mouth very broad. Äiti.
And what would the word be for daddy, for father?
That also has that sound, but it's in the end of the word. So daddy will be in Finnish, isä. Isä.
Isä.
Yeah.
Huh. So if the baby doesn't have teeth yet, how does the baby say isä?
Yeah. Well, they are quick to learn. They're quick to learn.
I mean, the words that I know in Finnish mostly are either out of operas or restaurant menus, things like that. And they don't have cognates with any Germanic or Latin language that I speak. So you don't see it in English, you don't see it in German, you don't see it in French or Italian or Spanish at all. And sometimes I see a word in Finland and, people say, well, that's restaurant, ravintola. And it doesn't sound like ristorante, restaurant in all the different languages. So, and I mean this is a serious question. If you grew up in Finland, even if you're exposed to foreign languages, the fact that almost all the words in Finland don't relate to anything else outside of Finland, except a little bit in Estonia and maybe Turkey and Hungarian, but not too
Mm.
much.
Mhm.
Does a Finn grow up with a different mindset, a different mentality about language, the semiotics of language, that if we recognize a word as meaning something, and in most of the other European languages, you can see where it came from or how they connect, but not in Finnish.
Mm. Yeah, I think you're
We
right.
grow up differently. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think we are very aware in Finland that we are not too many people in the world who can speak the Finnish language, and that's why we're learning. We're eager to learn different languages, and we started to learn English at the first grade at school, and then German and French come along quite soon after that. So, and also Swedish as well. Swedish you can use already in the kindergarten, even though you don't have any relatives who are Swiss. Swedish is a second official language in Finland, so you have opportunity to start studying it while you're in kindergarten. So in very, very
I've
early
met people in the eastern part of Finland and Karelia who speak Russian because it's close to the Russian border. This
Yeah.
makes for being great opera singers if you can speak all those different languages and sing in them. And I think that's why Finland, which has 5.2 million people, produces an astonishing amount of wonderful opera singers because of that ability to go into languages. And I also think because of the vowels that you just articulated can be sung in Italian. Those are really Italian vowels too.
Yeah, A, E, I, O, U,
Yeah.
definitely. That's Italian, yeah.
So
Very
you can
true.
sing Puccini and Verdi and Mozart and Bellini and Rossini right away because you don't have to learn those sounds.
Yeah.
The English speaker, they're different. For a French speaker, they're certainly different. So
yeah, the one thing we also do, we never duplicate our movies on the TV. So there is
you never
always
dub them.
Yeah, don't do that. So there's always text underneath, and there are like 2 points. You first of all you learn to read because you want to follow the story, and second, hear the language. You hear the original language and original sound of it, and of course there are a lot of movies around the world. There was a lot of Nordic movies where you can hear Norwegian and Danish, but also French movies and German. So you're exposed to those languages. Yeah.
I have had many wonderful experiences in Finland. I love the people. I love the nature. I love the food. I love just about everything about it. And one of the things that I really love that appeals to my sensibility is the egalitarian aspect of Finland. Americans and French can talk about egalitarianism, but the Finns actually live it. And the best story on that was I was teaching in an elementary school, a little basic, school for little kids. And you're supposed to line up, you're supposed to queue up to get your meal. And you're supposed to wash your hands before.
Yes.
Now, me being the adult, the foreigner, in every other country in the world, whether it's Brazil, even Japan, Italy, wherever I've been, they would say, go ahead. You go ahead, wash your hands and take a place. In Finland, I had to line up with all the little kids, wash my hands after they did. I loved it. It was just so nice. Everyone was equal. We understood that we all had to wash our hands. We all got food. We would sit together, and that made for wonderful education because I was not viewed as sort of like the visiting scholar, professor, or whatever. I was viewed as this nice man who can teach me something. And the kids taught me things too. And I've never encountered that in any other academic setting in the world. And it's really something that I'll never forget. Similarly, in Norway, I was teaching all the way up in the Arctic, and I discovered that every person I came across knew how to read music. And I never found that anywhere else in the world because they went into a church and they were sight singing everything.
Yeah.
And I've never, maybe in Finland, a lot of people do that, but in Arctic Norway, in the fishing villages, Batafjord and places like that, Kirchenes. Everybody read perfectly in their music, which was really stunning.
Yeah.
Um, you
Well, it's
mentioned, yes,
I guess it's a privilege of a small country where you have opportunity just to take care. We're less people, so it's easier to take care of everybody and to provide opportunities for everybody. So
but making that a priority also.
yeah.
When I talk about Finland, because many Finns are shy. You're not shy. You are lovely and extroverted, but many Finns are very shy. And often I wind up speaking about Finland on their behalf. And one of the things that I always point out about Finland is, unlike the other countries in the area, which is to say Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Poland, Russia, that all had monarchies and royal governments, Finland did not. Finland was a nation of people who were struggling against all of that occupation. And therefore, the common sense of one another was of equality and mutual support, even if a lot of Finns I know like to go off and stand on their own island and not talk to anyone else. But they respect space and distance, but
Yes.
everyone is treated equally. And I love that. I just think if the whole world could be like that, we'd have a lot fewer problems. And Finland is a model of that for me. Now,
Yeah,
you mentioned among the languages in the countries you were exposed to, Denmark. And
true.
I happen to know that you did a lot of your studies outside of Finland in Denmark.
Yeah, that's very
And
true.
talk about your Danish education and how that would be different. It's geographically a little country, but it's a country with a lot of cultural power. It had a monarchy. It still does, actually. It has a royal theater. Everything in Denmark is royal china, royal silver, royal everything. It's a different environment with a royal tradition, number one, of opera, but number two, of ballet, one of the great ballet traditions of the world. So,
True.
talk about, why did you go to Denmark? What did you learn in Denmark that you could not have learned in Finland?
Well, thank you, Fred. That's a very great question because Denmark has such a special place in my heart. I actually learned Danish while I was studying there, and I always prefer to speak Danish when I go to Denmark. And I'm always helping choirs and singers with Danish diction as well in Finland because it's just so special. But definitely, I mean, Copenhagen is just located so much closer to Europe, to Central Europe. There are historically such a great tradition of great writers and philosophers, and music has been always appreciated very highly. Søren Kierkegaard has his philosophy where he's mentioning music, and we have so many art pieces, musicals and movies based on Andersen's fairy tale. So, yeah, but just the atmosphere of Copenhagen is very open. The art is very much welcome. There is a very high appreciation of aesthetics. You can see the love of beauty everywhere on the streets, on the way people are wearing clothes and also treating each other. There's aesthetics of that as well. And at the same time, people are very relaxed. And there is this famous hygge, so very cozy way of being. So that was very safe environment for me to study, to do my studies abroad for the first time. And I went to Opera Academy, which was located at the Royal Theater in Copenhagen. So Royal Theater actually is an organization of opera, ballet, and drama theater. And it's a complex of 3 different houses. And we as students, we had opportunity to go and see all the performances in those 3 houses. And that was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. We were out every night to see or to see ballet or to see opera and of course a lot of concerts. I studied there with great pedagogue Susanna Eken, who is actually teacher of Lisa Davidson as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I studied together with Lisa. I still remember we did this one scene from Arabella where she was Arabella and I was Stenka.
Okay,
So that
sure.
was a lot of fun to do that with her. And Susanna Eken is just incredible pedagogue. She's still active, even though she's retired. And the school was giving us a lot of opportunities. We had opportunity because it was in the opera house. We had opportunity to take part in the opera productions. We had small roles there. We had opportunity to meet all the international stars who were visiting the house. That was just incredible. Many conductors, singers I met there, stage directors, just great. And also opportunity to travel very easily from Copenhagen to Germany and other countries to do auditions and to get connected. So yeah, I definitely recommend Copenhagen for young singers who are planning to do their studies abroad.
I remember a number of years ago, Denmark's most famous composer, Carl Nielsen,
Yes.
got a lot of special attention in New York. Our former conductor at the New York Philharmonic was Alan Gilbert, who has a Swedish wife, and he works a lot in Sweden and Denmark. And he wanted to bring the music, all the music of Carl Nielsen to New York. And the New York Philharmonic hired me to be the speaker and, quote, expert on Carl Nielsen and do all the lectures before the symphonies and about his life and the different concertos and his particular marriage, which was interesting. And so we had a very deep dive into Carl Nielsen. And while I was doing that here, I couldn't come to Denmark to see you starring in his most famous opera, Masquerade.
Yeah, that's true.
How did they
right.
get a Finnish girl? There are all these Danish singers around. They picked a Finnish singer. How did that happen?
Leonora. Yeah, I did a part of Eleonora, and I did it actually twice. That was a very busy year. 150 years of anniversary, both Carl Nielsen, but also Jean Sibelius.
Yes.
So instantly something happening with either composers. I had a lot of things to perform that year. Yeah.
2015, I think, because they were 1865. Yeah, 2015. Exactly. Okay, yeah. I was here in New York at the Philharmonic, yeah. And I really wanted to come to Denmark. I went to Finland, but I really wanted to come to Denmark to see Masquerade, to see you, to experience how the Danes were experiencing Carl Nielsen. Do you think that he's undervalued as a composer in the world?
I think what he did symphonically and with his harmonic language is very interesting. His symphonic works are very strong. Of course, work like Masquerade, which is sung in Danish, is probably not available in the same way as some other operas internationally for all the singers. But yeah, and he has a bunch of beautiful songs as well. So that's something which is worth to explore and challenge yourself to dig into. Yeah, I think he definitely deserves more space and yeah, in the history, definitely. But I think the language is the one thing which makes it kind of complicated.
It becomes a barrier, but nonetheless, Sibelius, a lot of his songs I think are in Swedish, but
yes.
Somehow has broken out into the larger world more than Carl Nielsen. The countries up north each have their own composer. Edvard Grieg in Norway. Sweden does not quite have a composer at the level of Sibelius, Grieg, or Nielsen, but nonetheless, Sweden has lovely composers and a beautiful sort of charm, a sophistication in their music that maybe is not quite the same in the other three countries. I don't know what you think. I find the Swedes like charm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Danes like coziness, the Norwegians like strength, and the Finns
Nature. Yeah.
nature,
And I guess, yeah, exactly.
and the
There's
Finns like independence and autonomy and all of that.
a
Um,
nature as well.
nature as well, absolutely. I don't know if I ever told you that my first real encounter with Finnish singers and artists was in 1981 or 82. I was
Right.
at the Metropolitan Opera as performance manager, and the presentations director, whose name was Jane Herman, brought over the Finnish National Opera. And they
Mm.
did modern works plus an evening concert of works by Sibelius. But we had Marty Talvela, we
Oh,
had
great.
Matti Salminen, and we had all the great Finnish singers together. Karita Mattila was not old enough, I think, yet to come. But we had all of these singers, and they stayed a week. And it was a little hard to sell tickets because people didn't know on the first night. But the reviews were so spectacular that everything sold out very quickly. And it brought a whole generation of Finnish singers to New York,
Yeah.
um, doing not just Finnish music, we didn't have much then, but all the Russian, the French, the Italian, the German operas. Our
Mm.
Wagner's Ring Cycle was filled with Finnish singers, for example. Um, we had some of them singing Richard Strauss.
Mm.
Um, Monica Group was another one. And
Yes.
I'm forgetting there's another woman's name. I could picture her who sang the Rosenkavalier. She sang the Marshall in. I wonder if you
Yeah.
know who.
Soile Isokoski, probably.
Yes, Oily Sokolsky. That's exactly what I mean. And we had all these Finnish singers around. So when I was working at the Met, I came to know them. And Marty Talbot was very tall. He was a wonderful man. And I'm average height. I'm 5'10". That's 170 millimeters. And Talbot was much taller. And he would put his hand on my shoulder like the Green Giant and look down and say, "Fred, you must come to Finland. I will welcome you in Finland." And in Finland, we don't only do opera, we do recitals. You will hear me sing recitals, and you will hear this one and that one. And that's when I came. If Marty Schaapala says you have to come to Finland, yes, I'm coming to Finland. And that was the beginning for me of a real love relationship with this country that
Yeah.
is so passionate about music
Mm.
and of all kinds. But they were building opera houses and concert halls and creating new symphony orchestras. And in places like Lahti and Turku and I'm forgetting the name of another town up north, everybody got their own concert hall. No matter how
True.
small the town, they had a concert hall.
Yeah.
Savonlinna, this beautiful castle with an outdoor festival, where not just Helsinki, the capital. In other countries, maybe it would just be the capital. In
Mm.
Finland, they were building everywhere, and no one ever objected. I
Mm.
was there one time with the composer Magnus Lindberg, and
Mm.
we were watching television in Finnish, so he translated for me. And it was about the construction of, I think, a fifth concert hall for Helsinki. And
Mm.
the debate was not should we build it, but how much should we spend on it? And maybe we should build a sixth and save money. And there was no question about that.
Mm.
And I think it related to the Sibelius Academy, which is this magnificent institution where you studied. Am I correct?
Yes, that's right. And
Talk about the
yeah.
Sibelius Academy, it's phenomenal. There's a school in Austria. There are a couple of colleges in France and Germany and England, but there's nothing like the Sibelius Academy.
Mm. Well, thank you, Fred, for reminding about all the good things. Of course, the political atmosphere that is in many European countries and also unfortunately in US is kind of global. And even though Finland is known for the very high level of education, the always depends on the politicians who are in charge. So unfortunately, there have been more left side active people, and we're kind of terrified about the future of arts, but thank you for reminding about all the good things we have built so far, and hopefully we will be able to keep them.
Tell me,
And
in your opinion, what makes the Sibelius Academy special?
what makes Sibelius Academy special?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, there is a huge conductor department, and there's so many Finnish conductors work in the main orchestras around the world. And you mentioned about the concert halls in every city, and that of course means that we have also orchestras in every city. So Finland is a great place for international conductors to come and to get job and to get opportunity to work with orchestras. Yeah.
I'm suddenly forgetting his name, the old man with a very long white beard who teaches all the conducting students. He's written about 300 symphonies. Leif Segerström.
Leif Segerström is one of them, but Jorma Panola is probably the most famous teacher of conductors. He's still teaching. He's 93, 94. It's crazy. Yeah.
What I'm getting at with this is that when you go to Paris, you might have a Finnish conductor on the podium. When you go to San Francisco or Los Angeles, you might have a Finnish conductor, or Minneapolis. It seems wherever I go in the world, there's a very good chance that there's a Finnish conductor there. Mostly men, now women too, thank goodness. But there's also teaching of singing, of course, but also composition, because Finland has produced a remarkable amount of contemporary composers. I can't think of another country of its size to do that. France does, America does, Britain does, Germany to some degree, but for a country of a little more than 5 million people, there's no other country in the world that produces so many composers.
But you mentioned the reason for that. You already solved that somehow, saying that Finland has never been monarchy. We have been under Sweden for a long time and then under Russia. So we had very strong need of creating our identity, and classical music is the one way to do that, to create identity, cultural identity of the country. And we were just very lucky to have very active people in the past who were proactive and created the structures for that. So we have great musical education from the very first grades, a lot of music schools around the country. So all the kids have opportunity to study classical music. Then a few conservatories, universities where you can actually become a professional and then work, for example, in the orchestras that you can find many cities around the country.
So one of the great composers, sadly, she died too young recently, was Kaija Saariaho, who was the composer of the opera Innocence that you're now associated with at the San Francisco Opera. I'm correct, for another week until June 21st, right?
Yes, June.
People who are in the Western United States can see it. I do know it's going to places like Dresden, and I think the Metropolitan Opera has announced it's coming to New York. If they haven't, I just did. I don't know when, but
26.
Okay.
20, summer.
Okay, so therefore, it's an opera that has traveled. It had its premiere in Aix-en-Provence. Kaija Saariaho lived in France, and has appeared in London and Amsterdam, and I'm probably leaving out places.
Helsinki had 11.
Oh, okay, Helsinki, of course, yeah. And you have been associated, I don't know if with all the productions, but most of the productions. What has that been like? Because you knew Kaija Saariaho and you understand her aesthetic and her, of course, Finnish, but also her musical language. Would you talk about her and what you think her greatness was?
I think Kaija Saariaho was very, very special human being. just the energy and aura around her was something that really touched people just from the very first moments you meet her. I remember first meeting her when I was a child. I was still singing in Tapiola choir, that's Finnish children choir, who traveled the world performing Finnish music, folk music, but also very demanding contemporary music. We worked with contemporary composers of our time, and that was one of the great things about that choir.
Mm-hmm.
And and I remember we came to Paris, and Kaya was there, and she met us and she talked to us, and she was very friendly, and she had that aura around her, and we did her music. And as a child, you never separate, like, this is traditional music and this is contemporary music. All music is great and all music is exciting, and especially in the choir where you have friends singing with. So it felt wonderful, this first experience. And then, of course, when I became professional singer, I met some of my colleagues who have been done a lot of Kaya's music, and I became more and more interested in her musical language and in her way of capturing the slow processes of things around us,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is very interesting. I think also through my own PhD, where I concentrate on Sprechgesang, the way of using voice between speaking and singing, something that is very clear in the work like Arnold Schoenberg's Pierrot Lunaire.
Mm-hmm.
There I really wanted to dig into my instrument, what my instrument can do, my voice, what is possible. And Kaya's music is really giving opportunity for that as well. Still giving voice flexibility, giving voice opportunity to make long lines and express big emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So that was very, very important for me. And also the fact, as a researcher, you always need somebody to look up for. As an opera singer, I have a lot of to whom to look up for in the history, because obviously there have been a lot of sopranos. But in the research world, women researchers, there are a lot of us, but not too many. And Kaya's writings, Kaya's thoughts about music were also very important for me. And I can hear her feminine language in the way she uses orchestra and she uses music. It's very rounded, it's fluid, it has big emotional scale, but it's never sharp. And there was a lot of rhythms as well, but still it's difficult to explain, but it's very beautiful.
Yep. The opera Innocence, I've read the synopsis. I've not seen it. I understand it's a very powerful, very difficult subject. You can talk about it to the degree that you wish to. You may want to save things for when audiences attend. You don't have to tell everything. But it's modern, I gather, in its setting, or is it set in the past? I don't know.
It's actually modern, but it can be in 2000 or I think exactly. So it's not like super modern, but it's in our time. It's definitely contemporary setting. Yeah, beautiful set design, kind of Danish.
All right.
Yeah, you can see that from the house. The house is very beautiful. And for that, we have to thank set designer Chloe Lamfort. who worked on that. She's from Zurich Opera.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, she's from UK, but she has a lot of projects going on. So Zurich Opera is one of the operas she works at. Also stage director Simon Stone plays
Yes.
very role.
He's Australian, right?
He's Australian, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Lives in Switzerland, but originally Australian. And he brought this idea of turning house, which is quite trademark for him. So he has actually a lot of stage works, drama works, where there was house which is turning. And that was kind of solution for Kaya's original thought about fresco. So originally in 2013 already, Kaya got this request from Covent Garden to compose a new opera. It was the time the Danish stage director and opera director.
I can picture him.
Casper Holton, yes.
Casper Holton, yes. Yeah.
Yes, was there. And that was collaboration where Kaya brought this idea of fresco. So Kaya had come up with a formal idea for a group fresco in the style of Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah.
Last Supper, and Sophie Oksanen, the librettist, had drawn an association between that image and wedding photos. The innocence is happening in the wedding, where solemn faces conceal hidden family dramas. I guess that's not revealing too much to the audience.
The idea of fresco is that you're making an impression on paint, but you're on walls, but you're using paint that quickly dries. And a fresco is often a thought process rather than an oil painting that you are permanently doing. It's often like doing a sketch. And there's something called the pentimento, which means repentance, but it also means where the error can happen that you can then paint over. And that's an element of fresco as well. And I find that very interesting that she was interested in that as a concept. Because what it means is that she could have applied other colors if she chose to, if she didn't like the original, or she felt the original could be made better. And, there are composers who sent out their music and then that's it. And then there are others who edit and edit and edit. But it sounds like Kaya was interested in doing the emotional and musical first impression, but then at times having a pentimento and creating something else. And a lot of her works, to me, feel like that. I've never heard it described that way in painterly terms, the way you just did. But that certainly makes sense to me about her.
Yes. And one of the other things that was important for her, you already mentioning that opportunity to paint over, but she also wanted to use a lot of languages. That was important for her to discover new colors. I mean, Kaya is always interested in colors, and also in the patterns, in natural patterns that are happening in our world. For example, she and her husband, Jean-Baptiste Barrière, they used to spend time just sitting on the seashore and listening to the waves and measuring what is the rhythm of the waves to be able to recreate that in music. So the contemporary music is something which is very harmonic.
So last week on June 7th, I had a guest named Joshua Sam Miller. And the day after, June 8th, was World Ocean Day. And Joshua and I got into this long and very, to me, interesting discussion about how he listens to water. And he listens to whale sounds and the sounds of seabirds and seals and dolphins, especially, in their dialogue. And how the music comes to him from the deep, from the oceans and the seas that way. And it's interesting that Kaya, she was partly Finnish and lived near water, that there would be that similar approach.
Yes, for Kaya, nature in general was very important, just like for Jean Sibelius. But she also got different kind of education. She went to the Steiner school, where arts were really, really important, where they, for example, didn't use school books, but kids had to kind of create their books themselves. So they writing and painting and gluing leaves from the nature to the paper and eating the books in that sense themselves. And music was very much present in that education for her. And she played violin as well as a child. So, but something that Kaya was also emphasizing is that in our world where we're so visual and we're having so much visual impacts, the position of ear, position of hearing things and listening to things is becoming less important and losing some kind of quality. So she was actually irritated by contemporary popular genres which were not good enough. I mean, she obviously followed popular music as well, but she just wanted that to be more together with the quality of visual impact we have. Yep. So there's like dissonance between that. And talking to Alexis Barriere, who is the son of Kaya and who is dramaturg of, in a sense, opera, he is the one we have to thank for 9 different languages which are in this opera. So Sophia Oxenen, she wrote the libretto, she wrote the story, this multi-layer story of 13 characters, everything happening at the same time. Every character has their own storyline which you can follow, just like in the movie. So it's everyone is actually very important. There is no part where you just come in and deliver a letter, like in some Verdi or Donizetti operas. But this is really fresco of 13 characters. And Alexis Barriere created translations to 9 languages. And talking to Alexis, I understood that it was also for Kaya very important to explore would innocence work without staging? Like, can it work as just audio work?
Right.
And so far, we have not got opportunity to do broadcast. I think it has been only video broadcast, so the stage is always there. But I think it can be very interesting to just listen to the work and to try to understand and follow what happens there without seeing. So that said, Simon Stone has created very strong staging, and there's so many things happening on stage. It's like really watching a movie, and it's like a thriller. So once you are in, you're captured by opera, by the action, and 75 minutes just go 130 minutes will go just very quickly. There is no intermission in this opera. It's really.
I do know that there are 6 roles of children. I don't think they're played by children. They're played by adults, if I'm correct.
Students,
Does each child have his or her own language, or are they all Finnish speakers? Who gets which language?
So, okay, maybe I will just review a little bit more of the opera in the story. It takes place at international school, so it's a high school. So children are already teenagers.
Yep.
And it is international school, so we have there a Czech student, a Swedish student, a French one, Greek one, German one, a Spanish one. So those are the languages of students.
Yeah.
And English is their common language because they're in international school. And sometimes they switch also to Finnish because they all live in Finnish. The international school is in Helsinki, so opera takes in Helsinki because we also do have school shootings in Finland.
Unfortunately. And that's where we're going to leave it about this opera, because I don't want to spoil too much of it. I
Yeah.
intend as soon as I can see it to see it. Um,
Yeah.
but have you sung other works by Kaya Sarajevo in public, other operas or other works of hers?
Yes, definitely. Well, not so many operas yet. I would love to sing more operas by Kaya. I think my voice is suitable for that, and I definitely understand her musical language by now. I mean,
Yeah.
just following Innocence in so many countries. I have performed almost all of her vocal works, chamber works. So there is great vocal cycles she wrote for voice and orchestra, and that's always a great joy to perform that with orchestras. I have performed them in Sweden and Finland, and some of it also in United States. So it's very inspiring, and she has written last vocal cycle to Pentti Saarikoski poems, and that was finished shortly before her death, commissioned by Anu Komsi. So Finnish soprano is married to Sakari Oramo, BBC orchestra director, conductor. So yeah, so there is a lot of beautiful music by Kaya, and of course Quatre Instants is very famous orchestral work, and Leino songs, Finnish big poet Eino Leino has written beautiful text. Kaya is always interested in some texts which are not that easy, in a way that there are like levels to explore. Yeah.
Tell me about San Francisco, what it's like for a Finnish woman to be in San Francisco. It's different.
It is different, and it's incredible that one city can just have so many different things. You go to this beautiful areas with Victorian style houses, then you have like super rich people, and Waymo, this electric cars driving without driver streets. And
but then there are trolleys just like in Helsinki and Milan and Vienna. There are certain cities that have these streetcars. In America, not too many.
Yes.
But there's San Francisco, and then there are ones from Milan that run in San Francisco. I've seen them.
Yes,
and
definitely.
Share streetcars,
Exactly. It's it's kind of Uber, but you have to stay in line. You have to wait to get there because they're so popular. And at the same time, of course, I mean, Opera House is located not so far from the area where things are not so well. And what is great about Innocence is that it's actually activating communities are working with problems, with local problems, and with working actually really hard to help people who are not in the favorite position in society. So there was a great event, symposium named Beyond Innocence. I believe you can still watch it on YouTube. There were a lot of speakers about issues of the opera, special guests like Pastor Mike Bride. Then there were Giffords Law Center Publicity Director Mike McLively. We had comedian and television host Kumo Bell, and many different guests to discuss the issues of the opera and really share those things that are touching all of us. And that's the beauty of Innocence, because maybe already you understood that there is a thriller, there is a story happening, But what is beautiful about, in a sense, that it's not giving attention to predator, the shooter. It gives attention to community, to people who have to deal with what happened. And for example, very important parts are mothers, a mother of the shooter, a mother of the child who died in the accident, and their emotions, and them saying in the opera that they used to bake cakes together. There is this profound connection between people, and then something terrible can very suddenly happen, and how that changes us and changes ways of us dealing with life, but how we can still heal as a community and take responsibility of things which are not right.
For listeners who don't know, San Francisco Opera is in the War Memorial Opera House, and it's on Van Ness Avenue, which is a large thoroughfare coming from Market Street and going all the way to the port on the northern part of the peninsula of San Francisco. On one side is the Opera House, on the other side is City Hall, which is modeled after St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. But if you go 2 blocks further inland, I always forget, I think it's east, but I'm not sure, you come upon a district called the Tenderloin, which is a very large, troubled district full of people, many dealing with alcohol issues or drugs, but especially alcohol, many of them homeless. It's a scary place, and it's strange that San Francisco in the middle of it, San Francisco being a wealthy, progressive city, but somehow the Tenderloin remains as it was. But there's a wonderful church there called the Glide Memorial Church on Taylor Street. And it's open to everyone. And I've gone many times there to sing, but also just to prepare food for people as a means of helping that community, because I'm from New York, but we've never seen anything like that in New York. And New York is not perfect, but somehow our people, all, if they want to, have a place to go where they're in the warmth. And not necessarily churches. There might be other shelters, because in New York, we make strong distinctions between church and state. And so does California, actually. But nonetheless, the sheer size of that population is something people are not prepared for. When they come to San Francisco, they expect the Golden Gate Bridge and all the touristic sites in Chinatown and so on, and Union Square, and all of that is there. But then this massive wound, I'll call it, right in the middle of the city. And it's hard to address that. And I'm glad we did that with music.
Yeah, we went to see Funny Girl, which is in our Faro Theater. That's so beautiful. Gothic theater, just to the Opera House in the direction of Tenderloin. And well, I mean, I love the show, but the most touching thing was the homeless opera singer just sitting next to the entrance of the theater and delivering that beautiful Brahms in perfect German diction.
Wow.
Yeah, black homeless baritone with beautiful velvet dark voice. I was so touched. It was really like any one of us can end up in this kind of situation, and it's just terrible. And but I could really see the beauty and joy in his eyes when he was singing, and it was very touching. Yeah.
So you have also spent a good amount of time in Germany, which is per capita the country with the most opera houses and the very big tradition of supporting opera, not just German opera, but all opera. And you've sung in Berlin and you've sung in Stuttgart. And Stuttgart is famous in my world for the ballet more than the opera. They have a very famous ballet company, but I know they have a very good opera company. I mean, everyone goes to Berlin. Talk about Stuttgart as a place of culture.
Well, Stuttgart is very different from Berlin, I think. People are Bavarian. Bavarians, so they tend to love to talk. They're warm and they're open. They're proud of being Bavarians. There are also a lot of nationalities. I mean, in Innocence, the role that I've been doing a lot is actually in Greek language. I studied myself Greek in university, and also, you know, my husband very well. So he studied in Athens, and he speaks fluent Greek. So he kind of helped me with the part. And while I was living in Stuttgart and working in Stuttgart, I lived with Greek family. That's amazing, because there is just such a big community of Greeks. And it's easy for them to travel by car to Thessaloniki. Europe is not that big. Yeah. And also the strong community of Italians in Stuttgart. And of course, this huge business of cars, which is kind of similar to San Francisco, where Tesla is just, you can see Tesla everywhere.
So you are practically a one-woman European Union. You've been washed with all the waters practically of the European Union. And plus, if the English had not left via Brexit, then that would count too for England. But I mean, I love that, because many singers I meet, and musicians, but especially singers, are looked at as sort of exponents of wherever they're from. So Bryn Terfel, they expect him to sing Welsh music. Regine Crispin, you have to do French music. Pavarotti, Italian music, and so forth. And certain singers like Domingo sang everything, but he was identified as a Spanish or Mexican tenor. But if we took away the diphthongs and the vowels from your name, we could place you almost anywhere in Europe and be considered a local.
Well, I love to travel. I love to learn languages. I speak 8 languages. I love to communicate in the local language with people. I think the opportunity to study the culture really makes you understand something very essential about our world and why are we here, and something about humanity. And you can grab that only by really going into culture, and you know about it. I mean, your knowledge about Italian culture and Italian language and cuisine is just an opera. It's just amazing. So that's, you understand what I mean, right? To really
and I respect and love that. And I wish more people did that. I really do, because, you know, if you speak 8 languages, there are millions of people that you can talk to that otherwise a woman from Finland would not be able to, or most countries. But I think it changes the way we navigate the world if we speak a language in most places. I mean, I wish I spoke Chinese and Arabic, just because then I can talk to billions of more people, or Hindi, Urdu. You know, I could talk to all these different people. I don't like the intermediary of titles or translations. I like to do it myself, because you understand not just the sound and rhythm of a language, but what people find funny. Once you figure out the humor in a language, you are made a long stride toward becoming a person at home in that country, if you know when to laugh. And
true.
Yeah.
That's very true. And that is what is actually very beautiful and contemporary about Innocence, about opera in languages, because that's the world we're living in. In San Francisco, I do hear English on streets, but I also do hear a lot of Chinese and a lot of Japanese, a lot of Mexicans or Spanish. So it's very international in the world. Wherever you go, I think it's kind of rare where you're isolated from languages from other cultures. So in that sense, Innocence is very special. And also, I mean, it's Innocence really makes us to be connected to each other through the music of and through her being able to capture dimension of time. So what is in a sense special is that we're traveling back in time, but we're also giving a lot of attention to a slow process. So for example, if you're seeing your skin to have a scar, the skin is healing, you're never paying attention to that like every day. You're not looking at the skin healing, but it's just something that happens. And the same thing happens when you lose a person, when somebody dies and he or she is not there anymore, and you go on with your life and you feel that pain, but one day the pain is gone and you're healed. So in a really concentrating on that kind of slow processes that are happening. And that is, of course, something that happens to all of us in certain time of life. So this interconnectiveness of everything is the core of Innocence.
I encourage anyone in the Western United States to get a ticket and see it. I know that it will have streamed on June 12th. Maybe I'll be able to watch it then, or maybe it'll be repeated. But when you're not singing Kaya Sarajevo and other Finnish music, I know you sing Italian repertoire, you sing Russian repertoire, you sing a lot of languages. Am I correct that you have a concert performance of Kovanshina coming up?
Yes.
Yes, that's love that.
Esa-Pekka Salonen, who is actually right now in San Francisco. He came to see premiere of Innocence. That was funny story. He tried already to see it in Helsinki, but in Helsinki it was sold out. 11 shows were sold out right away, and that actually happened in every city. Innocence have been performed. So definitely get your tickets before it will be sold out. Esa-Pekka tried to get his ticket in Helsinki, and finally now in 2024 in San Francisco he got a chance to see the opera, and he came also to our premiere party and had a very nice talk with all of us, very open and warm. And we are going to do Kovanshina by Mussorgsky, the concert version, with 2 big choirs, with Finnish radio orchestra, and we are going to do a little tour with it. So there will be performances in Helsinki, but also in Stockholm. And then later on it will go to Salzburg as well. So Salzburg's
I would love to see that paired with Lohengrin. I think there are many similar themes between the opera Lohengrin and Kovanshina, about old believers, about people sticking to traditions because they're traditions, even if maybe it's not the best way to live, and then people presenting new ways to live that are not necessarily better. And there are people who cannot put their foot in modernity in both operas. And the things have to be the way either fate intended or the way God's intended that it be done. But unlike Lohengrin, which has sort of a quiet, beautiful but quiet ending, Kovanshina ends like a Tadamurum, with a lot of fire and a lot of Sturm und Drang, and it's thrilling. It's a wonderful, wonderful work.
It's very powerful, and the music is very powerful as well. I mean, Modest Mussorgsky as a composer, he was always drawn by, big emotions, and also he was kind of he was very much human in the sense that he understood life. I mean, his chamber work, Nursery, about children songs, is just so touching and so true. He was very naturalistic for his time. He wrote the work for Nursery himself, and this is one of the works where children are actually, you can believe that those words are from children's mouth, because usually children are romanticized somehow in the art song. cycles and they're pictured by adults, but here it's really the voice of somebody who is telling the story. And I think the same thing is with Chovanshin. It's very naturalistic. So the use of language is also very naturalistic. You have the old beliefs are using church Slavonic, and people from the villages are very brutal with their words, texts. So that's a lot of fun. It's kind of fête galante, if you want to use that French word for that. That's crazy. Sorry.
The world of opera nowadays presents challenges for people who work in it because all kinds of reasons. Number one, it's a hard profession. Number two, you kind of have to know people. Number three, you're often expected to be a specialist in certain things. So that because you are associated with Finland, with Denmark and so on, maybe in Finland you get to sing Italian opera and Richard Strauss and Verdi and Puccini and Donizetti. But have you ever tried to sing the music of these composers in their own countries?
Yes. One of my research subjects is also cabaret songs. And that was amazing experience for me in Stuttgart, where I performed cabaret songs in German to German audience, and actually to get all that response to all the jokes and humor that is in the cabaret texts. People really understanding the nuances of the story. The same thing happened to me also in Portugal, where I performed Astor Piazzolla and his music, also to really be connected through the language to
but
the
he's
local.
For Argentina, yes.
Yes, yeah, but it's still sung in Portuguese, of course, with our dialect.
Right.
In
Fado is their local romantic, as the Germans say, Sehnsucht, their longing, music of longing and passion. It's beautiful.
Yes, which speaks
Fado.
with the Finnish soul. Definitely. I'm not such a great Fado singer, and I leave it to those who are really, really good at it. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful style. But those are my experiences.
What would you like to do next musically?
Well, I want to go on. I'm just so thrilled with all the things I'm doing. I have this opportunity to perform internationally, to explore the world, to work with very high-level musicians, stage directors, choreographers. The movement is very important for me as well. I commissioned work by from Finnish female composer Minna Leinonen, who's a uprising, beautiful composer. And she did this great opera about Alma Mahler. And Alma Mahler kind of struggling and trying to get free. And that opera was written for 3 singers and 5 dancers. And all of us were dancing and singing. So, and also the ensemble was also a movie. And there was a choreographer who, of course, worked with us and made a very stylistic way of the movement. And that was very beautiful and touching. And the same thing goes with Innocence. Why I really like to follow this production is because the voice is explored in so many ways. There is a traditional way of using opera voice, operatic singing, very demanding, very beautiful. But also speaking voices are a very important role, and something in between. So Sprechgesang, Lucy Shelton, American singer, delivering those Sprechgesang lines in the role of teacher. She's just wonderful. She's so powerful. The Sprechgesang is really touching you, and you can follow this emotional journey of teacher in a very, very special way. Lucy is amazing. So that is very important for me to use my voice in different ways, and also to use my body. And in innocence, Arco Renz, our choreographer, has created very special body language that we all learn. And with that body language, we're able to take care of ourselves, even though we're showing on stage strong emotions. We are all sharing the beautiful common language that makes us relax and be calm and be safe. And that is something you can carry with you in your everyday life. So I'm very grateful that Arco
Did
worked with
I
that.
see that you had a glass of water there?
Yes.
Now, if I were back in my casting days, I know you sang Zdenka in Arabella. I would cast you so fast as Arabella. And Arabella, as you know, at the end of the opera indicates her willingness to marry Mandrika by walking down a flight of stairs holding a glass of water. I've seen different singers do it. The only one who did it incredibly well is Kiri Takanawa, who you studied with, I know.
Yes.
But Renee Fleming, okay. A lot of the others, okay. But they all look nervous with the water. Kiri Takanawa came beautifully down the steps singing, and then handed the glass of water to, I think, Baron Feichel, if I remember. And it was a magnificent moment because of the way it was staged, the way she did it. But that's such a great role. And you look right for that role. And you sound right for that role. And, you know, I get asked all the time by singers would I listen to them or would I recommend roles or repertoire and so on. So what I do is I often think about singers myself. And what would I have them do if we're up to me? Because many young singers, especially in America, don't know vast amounts of repertory. And I don't mean that they don't have 30 operas in their head. I mean that they may not know all but 3 operas of Verdi or 2 of Puccini. Tosca, Madame Butterfly, maybe Bohème. But if they're not indicated for singing a role, they don't know it in that opera. And but I do think that particularly for sopranos of your type, the operas of Richard Strauss is worth devoting time to, even if you learn the role and then you go in for an audition for something else. People hear what you sound like with that, and that's one man's opinion, expert opinion, but that's one man's opinion. That just open that score up again. It's under A on your shelf, and and look at it. I think you'd be
Thank you.
Arabella. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I hope a lot of people can hear this podcast, and
Oh yeah, they do. Yeah.
Arabella is a great part.
Yeah.
I will be very happy to sing that. And I have to say though that I'm so glad to meet so many amazing American singers here at San Francisco Opera. The fact that here is Merola Summer Program, where you have a bunch of people working with young singers, giving them all the important tools to become professionals, and also San Francisco Opera giving opportunity to become an Adler and to take part in the productions, like Innocence, for example. It's just great. I mean, the cover cast here is such a high level. We have Philip Taylor. We have very, very many Merola Adlers. Look up at the website who are with us. And I was very grateful for Jean Kellogg, who allowed me to stay with her.
Jean was a guest on my show, on this show, about 2 months ago. And she retired as the head of the Maryland program. Yeah. So we used the opportunity to really talk in great detail about this unique training program in the world that's connected to San Francisco Opera.
Yes. Yes, very true. Very true. And in the principals, we also have Rod Gilfrey. Of course, you know Rod. You've heard him in many baritone roles. He's just incredible. Also, his connection with cabaret singing, and it was a great joy to work with him on Finnish diction because it was so easy for him. And also Miles Mykkänen, who has Finnish name. I mean, he has
Yes, he does. He's American, but I think, or he has a Finnish name though. When I met him, I asked him, is he Finnish? And he smiled and he didn't quite, he didn't quite say yes or no.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that all of those American singers are so active in their hometowns and running other festivals or concert series is just so great. It's a wonderful thing. Yeah.
So, Olga, it has been a delight to have this visit with you, apart from the pleasure of seeing you. But for people to understand a lot of what makes Finland and its artists and its artistic value so special, you are the perfect embodiment of all of that. And I'm very happy that San Francisco is coming to know you. And I've heard you in recital here in New York, but we want to get you back for an opera or two. And keep up all your good work. You diversify, and not only do you bring more things to more people, but I know that you learn through the contrast of working with different people in different ways. And that really shows to me in your artistry as a singer that you're paying attention. And frankly, not everyone does, whatever profession, but certainly opera singers. Some of them are just sort of coasting along and producing beautiful sound and knowing where to put their feet at a certain time. But that's not the same level of commitment. And most opera singers from Finland I've ever met are deeply, deeply committed to their art form.
Well, thank you, Fred, for making this podcast and those interviews, as I said, creating common memory for us who are active in the field at the moment. And I think what you just said is very, very important. And we, as a young generation of opera singers, we have to be active. We have to expose ourselves because, I mean, opera, like in a sense, is actually being popular among young people. So it's really appealing for young people, for new audience to the opera houses. And that's something we should do and not underestimate, because we do have great tradition of opera, and me myself, I have such a great respect to traditions, but we also have to look in the future and to make something that moves people, that's something that gives them experience, and in a sense is definitely being reviewed as experience. That is something you cannot see in the movie theater or a streamed performance, something you have to come to see in the theater and get it very physical into your body, into your system. And for that, I really hope that many people will find, in a sense, and will come to San Francisco or in 2026 to New York to experience this opera.
And also in Dresden coming up in March of 25, I think.
Yes, I will be part of that. Well, I will be part of that production that will be directed by Lorenzo Fioroni and conducted by Maxime Pascal. And there are some of the Finnish singers in that cast, so I'm happy to meet there. Anu Komsi and Jukka Rissanen, for example. So I'm looking forward to that, even though it's so hard for me to imagine how this work can be put on stage right now, because I've just Simon Stone's version is so strongly in my system at the moment.
So I have one more word for you. It's Finnish. Kiitos.
Kiitos. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you in Finnish. Thank you, Olga. And I will see you soon. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.